Good evening, everyone. Good evening from PAZITO Radio. Please, when you come and share the video, Nana Pokia, Abigail Abnab, Mumpaswa, Mr. Monshe video, and Yebeka Asam, Efa Kwaya Yefaswa, Yemakodi Abansam. I'm going to talk about safeguarding children. Call a friend, invite somebody. That is what I'm doing. Invite a friend. Thank you, Akuya. It's just the grace of God.
Give up to someone today. No one knows tomorrow. Don't just walk past them. Kindness to them.
We welcome Mr. Kweku Afram, CEO and chairperson of GASWA, and also not just that, also Child Protection Conference chair and independent reviewing officer. And in the area of children's services, he has been in this service for 16 solid years, and he is the president of GASWA, Ghana Social Workers Association in United Kingdom. He is the CEO, and they have 80, I've just bring it so that 80 social workers of our own, Ghanaian social workers that has come together. Tonight we have 2 of them on board, but Mr. Kweku Afram, the CEO, the boss, is just behind it, and we'll be seeing him as well. He will be backing, so he's there supporting us. We have Laura, we have so many of them to back us. I will be introducing as they come on this evening. I'll be introducing them. Hello, good evening. As I said, our dear sister, Madam Angela Appiah. Madam Angela Appiah is the lead of GASWA, outreach lead of GASWA, a senior practitioner in social services, and she's been in for so many years. So we have professionals backing us. So whatever we are doing is from the paper. This is book, not what you know, but this is book in United Kingdom law. So welcome, Madam Angela.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I know for some time now we've been doing physical abuse, and it has dived into so many areas, but I mean, we are learning. There's so many calls that people have said, oh no, PAZITO Radio, you're doing it all. Because to have these people backing you, as we just started, I've got people texting. Continue to text on WhatsApp messages, on Messenger. Any question that you have, if you ask, they will. As I was announcing earlier, any question along the week, if there's something that you think is blowing your mind off, don't die in silence. That is why they are there. Welcome, our dear sister.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, that's what we are telling people, exactly what you just said. People should not die in silence. We're social workers, we're doing our job. However, we feel that within our Black community, within our own Ghanaian community, people need to have a better understanding, because there's a big gap there. So
okay,
families.
It's a PK Owusubuahin. It said, please tell my sister Angela I say hello. Hello, PK.
Hello.
Please, when you come on, share it. Agnes Tutu, God bless you. Share the video. Spread the news. This is good news. Spread the news. You don't need to have go to a solicitor to go. If you prevent it now, you will not have to pay for a solicitor.
Exactly. It's all preventative work. That's what we are doing. That's what we have come together to form this very strong union called GASWA. You know, we have our boss, Kweku Afram, at the background as well, I believe. So that's why we have formed this. It's a way of helping our own Ghanaian people to have a clearer understanding of what we do and how they can prevent themselves from becoming known to the service and leading to the fact that they might lose their children. I think it's more to do with lack of understanding, lack of education. They don't know. And I don't blame people who don't know. If you were not born, even those who were born here and has lived here all their lives, they still lack some understanding of how the system works in terms of safeguarding children. And that is why we are together. So everybody, if you have a question, get it ready. My colleague Martin will join us at some point. He will be the answerer to all the questions. So he will come on board to answer people's questions. If you've ever experienced social services in your life before, if you've ever been known to them by one way or another, whether there's been an allegation against you that you've hit your child in a way that you were not supposed to, and maybe the case didn't even go any further, you are still welcome to put forward all your questions. Those who have been involved and it has gone to the extent that their children have been removed, whether by temporary basis or in a long term, all of you are still welcome to put your questions across. We will be happy to answer all your questions. If you need further consultation, that is why GASWA is available. Our telephone numbers are all over the place. Our website, you can contact us on Facebook, anywhere, and then we'll be able to give you appointment to come forward for a proper one-to-one consultation. So for the past few weeks now, we've been talking about physical abuse, isn't it, Auntie Agnes?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, and last week...
sharing the video. Share the video, please. Because this is something you don't want to hear, your friend telling you or your sister telling you, yeah, Jimmy, no, we have to prevent it now. Most of our people, their children has been taken away. Yeah. And I tell you, it's not a pleasant experience at all to have your child removed from your care. You know, that is why we felt that within the Black community, this is quite essential. So last week, Martin spoke a lot about the Section 47 procedures. That is Section 47 according to the Children's Act 1989. Along the line, I will put two questions down so that our Mr. Martin will also prepare. It says, my child lied against me. The child said I put pepper in her private part, which I did not do. Then again, she said, I smacked her. I have done that one before. I have done, there's no evidence in body, but she decided that she is not coming home. So she took herself in and now she's there. Today she says that what I said was a lie. The next day, so the story is not on one point. The third will say, my mommy didn't do it. The next time, she says she did it. So the case is just up and down. They can't, so the child is still there.
You know, that is the inconsistencies in an account, in a child's account, which it could be somebody trying to influence the child not to say what she wants to say. So there's a lot of inconsistencies there from what you're saying. The child will say, my mommy did it. The next day, the child will say, my mommy didn't do it.
But Auntie Angela at times not so much. So you just, the second one is, my child is there. Can I ever have her?
Okay, that is another, you know, situations like this.
If the questions come, I will write it down. So if you have any questions, if you tap it, then Mr. Asamoah will also prepare at the background whilst we have those questions there.
Exactly. Okay, so what Martin, according to what Martin was saying last week, we just want to still let people have a clearer understanding of how the Section 47 works. Say, for example, your child makes an allegation against you, and the child goes to school or tell a neighbor or go to hospital and tell a nurse, or we receive referrals from all over the place. But if a child makes an allegation against the mom, the dad, the uncle, the aunt, the carer, whoever, and then social services and police become involved, there is an interview, which last week Martin made it clear that if you know you can't speak English or you can't really defend yourself, ask for an interpreter. Now let's move on from there. Okay. When the interview of the police and social worker has completed, and there is a level of evidence, that means that the child will not be allowed to go back home with you. That means the child will need to be accommodated elsewhere pending investigation. When at the point when that happens, and people should understand that it's not all the time that a social worker and the police will come out to speak to you about an allegation of any sort of abuse, that the child will at that point, there will be a decision for the child to be taken away from you. Sometimes the child is allowed to go back home with you, and then the social worker will carry on with something we call the child and family assessment. So that assessment will go on for some time, and if we find no reason to be involved, we will shut the case down and we will back off. But if it proceeds to the point that the child will not be allowed to go back home with you and the child needs to stay elsewhere, at that point, please be mindful of the fact that you can propose for the child to go and stay somewhere else. It all depends on the severity of the allegation. But there is the chance of you making that proposal. What I've gathered is when it gets to that point, the Ghanaian people, we're black folks, we become so confused, we are shaking, we don't know what to do, we just leave the decisions for the police and the social services to do. Please.
Listen, I don't know, but there's some reflecting and going up and down. I don't know what.
I can't really understand what is going on. I can see that it's flashing.
Yeah. Well, we can hear your voice. We can hear your voice.
You can hear my voice.
As for the voice, we can. Yeah. I just want to know.
I can see that it's flashing at the background, but I don't really understand why it's doing that.
Okay.
Okay, shall we carry on?
Okay, Mr. Martin said there are a number of options available to parents whose children have been removed from their care. I will explain it when I, okay, thank you.
Exactly.
I don't know who is Hulda. It says, please tell my sister Hulda that I say hello and God bless her, today is her birthday. So I don't know Hilda, but whoever, your sister say her happy birthday.
Okay, I'm not too sure about that, whether today is my birthday.
I don't know who it's on, and it's called Huda. So your sister Agnes Tutua says happy birthday. So at least I've said it.
All right.
Okay.
All right, then I'll receive it. It's in November, so I'll take it for now and wait till November. Anyway, so at that point, you have the opportunity to put forward a family member, a friend, somebody, a familiar person that your child can go and stay with. But one thing we all need to understand is that at that point, there will be some sort of a police check on that person you are putting forward. It is possible that there will be some sort of an agreement between yourself and social services. We call it rating agreement or safeguarding agreement or whatever.
Okay,
and
so the person that I will choose, the person that I will choose, they need to check safeguarding.
They need to do some background check.
DBS check first.
Yes, if the person has a DBS check, fair enough, but the police will run their own checks as well. So that person needs to be, of a certain character for the agreement to happen for your child to. That is permitted. If the allegation is of a very high level, that there's been some evidence picked up along the line whilst the police were interviewing, the parent or whoever the allegation has been made against, and decisions are made that the child is definitely not going home with a parent, and therefore a much stronger type of order needs to be imposed so that the child is safeguarded. At that point, the police can issue something we call the PPO, police protection orders or emergency protection orders, for the child to be safeguarded within the time. And usually that lasts for 72 hours, where the child is taken away to an alternative accommodation, and it lasts for 72 hours. Usually that is the child going into the local authority care. It could be a foster placement, for example, for that 72 hours, within that time, there will be a lot of consultation with the parent or whoever the allegation has been made against. You have the chance to seek some legal advice if you want to. And then after the 72 hours, when it has expired, there will be a lot more discussion about what is the next step to take, which the local authority might ask you to agree for your child to stay in wherever outside of your home. That agreement, we call it Section 20 agreement, which means that you are agreeing for the local authority to have that duty of looking after your child for a certain period of time. If we get to that point, with that sort of agreement, you are free to withdraw it at any point you want, if it's under Section 20. If it's not under Section 20, and following on from when the police issue the protection orders, that the child cannot come to you and is going straight into court, from then on, it has to go straight into court for the court to issue an order for the local authority to continue keeping your child under their care. What I want our folks to understand is, when it gets to that point, please be mindful of the fact that it is also for your own protection for the child to stay away from you. Now, the reason being that that child has made an allegation against you. Until facts are founded, until we get to the bottom of it, if you continue to have contact with the child, you are exposing yourself to a lot more allegations to be made against you. There's a chance that you might flare up, you might express some anger outburst because of what the child has said about you. It is normal, so at that point, your best bet is to move yourself away. Stay somewhere or agree for the local authority to take that child away from you and place the child somewhere. The child is safeguarded. You yourself, you're being safeguarded as well at that point. But what I notice is a lot of People get distressed at that point. They don't understand what is going on. You know, they need a lot more clarity.
We can just show our anger.
You can show our anger.
It's going to get worse now. It's going to get worse.
Exactly. It will get worse. It will get worse. And by the time you realize a lot of things has been misinterpreted, and by the time it gets to court, you don't have a lot to defend yourself with. You know, what we all need to understand is, but what we all need to understand is physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, whatever form of abuse, it is not acceptable. We are not condoning it. We are not saying it's okay for parents to do that. No, you can't do that. You have to have a better way of...
Favorite radio all the way from USA. Our dear sister, God bless you so much. She's a radio station, but she's always back in PAZITO Radio. God bless you so much. She's doing a very good team work. And we're going to see more of favorite radio. Don't worry, my dear sister. We'll make sure everything is okay.
Okay, then. So, when you get to that point, there's a lot of misinterpretation. There's a lot of misunderstanding, misconstruing of what has been said. So, what I want our fellow Ghanaians to understand is when you get to that point, please calm down. Calm yourself down, you know, seek advice. People like Gaswa, you can contact us. We will support you through it all. And when it gets to some point, and the child is even removed from your care, there is still hope. People should not lose hope. There is still hope. We can give you all the advice you need, all the support you need. You know, sometimes you need to contact certain organizations. You might not even know that you need to contact them. We can signpost you. You know, we can give you advice and help you. But most importantly, you need to understand that you cannot continue to abuse your children and get away with it. You know, the abuse is not acceptable. Children can lie. We know that children, when they are at a certain age, some of them, when they go to school and they notice their friends are in care and their friends are getting they want Nike and they are getting Nike worth, you know, hundreds of pounds and they want it as well. They feel it's a fashion. Let me get into it as well. Let me lie on my mom. You know, let me just say something and then I'll be taken into care. We are experienced enough to work with the families and understand it when the child is actually just making some sort of a wrong allegation just for the sake of attention.
What is saying, it's crucially important for the parents to cooperate with the care and the police.
We need
at the initial investigation.
Yes, at the initial investigation. And what we advise is that, please, when it gets to that point, tell the truth. When the police come and they are doing their investigation, because a lot of things get said as we go along, which makes it look like one of you was not telling the truth. And when there is an evidence of harm on the child, there is little chance for the parents to lie or for whoever inflicted that injury on the child to lie. So at that point, it is important that you share all the facts and you tell the truth to make it quite smooth for everybody. This is your child we are talking about. And if, like I said before, if the child needs to stay away from you for a temporary period while the local authority is working with you, there's a lot of support services, parenting classes, you know, awareness, protective awareness around that we can always signpost you to. But what we find out is a lot of our folks, we hide behind religion. We start to claim it and bind it and lose it and all of that. Meanwhile, the abuse is actually happening. And they are binding and losing and they run to the church pastor to try and get some prayers going. My friend, if you have abused your child to the extent that you have inflicted injury and there is an investigation going on, please comply with the process. Comply, don't start binding as soon as you see social services knocking on your door and thinking it will just go away. This is procedures we all need to follow. That is why for the past few weeks, we've been talking about all forms of abuse, trying to get people to understand that there's another way of, raising your children without abusing them. We are not back home where people will just beat you left, right, center, and go. Hello, am I there?
I can hear you now. I know your internet is really not straight, but we can hear you now.
Yeah, this is a place where, certain things are not allowed as compared to where we come from. So if you have a way of raising your children, which means every day you're raising your hand, you're hitting them, we have given you the information in the past few weeks about all of those things not acceptable and the better way to raise them. However, if you get to this point where Section 47 investigation it's initiated on your family, we need your full cooperation. We need you to understand, and please ask questions. If the social worker comes to your house, make sure you have a list of questions in your hands that you are going to ask them.
Okay.
If you don't understand anything that they are saying,
the text message is, the lady said I should cooperate. Okay. If I accept that I truly smacked the child, what is the consequences? So Mr. Martin
Mr. Martin will prepare to answer all of those questions.
That I did it, what is the consequences?
I'm sure Mr. Martin will be preparing to answer all of those questions. However,
so
let me just throw in a comment there.
Texting, and I will say it for Mr. Asamoah to be able to, when he comes on, he will be preparing, and then we will have from him.
Yeah.
Please share the video
to answer those questions.
However,
sorry?
As I share the video, spread the news. Spread this news so that somebody else will understand.
Yeah, let me just throw something in there. There is something we call reasonable chastisement and unreasonable chastisement. Everybody knows that raising children is a very difficult task. We acknowledge that. It's not an easy task. It's a very difficult task because every child is unique. Every child comes with different challenges, and you are one parent. If you have 3 children, for example, each of them has their own needs and their own challenges, and you are going to have to meet all of them. That is why we keep saying we all need to be aware of child development, uniqueness in children. Every child develops in a different pace. It's not the same. You don't expect all your children to behave the same way. So you need to be fully aware of the growth and development of your own children so that you know how to meet their individual needs. There should be tailored needs. There should be tailored response to each individual child's needs. So when you accept that, yes, you did it, there's something we call reasonable chastisement. We are all human beings. When we come in, we assess all of that. The most difficult thing is when the parents are not cooperating, when they are not engaging, when, they make it very difficult for you to work with them. We try to work with families to start with until it gets to the point where, they are throwing it all on a different direction. It becomes very difficult to work with them. Then, and obviously we don't work in isolation. We have managers and top managers sitting up there where we have to always do our supervision and get some guidance according to our cases. And by the time you realize, because the family has not cooperated and it has run on for a long time, there is then a decision to escalate it, take it to the next level. Then taking it to the next level could be anything. It could be where we are taking it to a child protection conference, where we are taking it to court, things like that. And it's not pleasant. It's not a pleasant experience for the families at all. So at the initial stages, we need that cooperation. We need you to be open and honest. If the chastisement you've given to the child is unreasonable, we will explain to you that the extent to which you've gone, which we feel, and if it's unreasonable, I think everybody should know.
You as a mother, is backing you. There is salient point, Madam Angela. We thank Mr. Kaku Afram, who is the CEO
Thank
of
you, my
GASWA.
boss.
Thank you.
Yes. So, when the punishment becomes unreasonable, and some families, it's just the knowledge and information they need. Some of them, when you tell them and explain to them that, look, you can punish the child up to this point, but you can't go any further. They accept it, they agree it, they do their, they agree to sign some paperwork with you and consider to begin to, have a different approach of protecting their children or caring for their children. So the worst case scenario is what I said earlier, when the police will issue some protective protection orders, which we call it PPO, or an emergency protection orders, where the child will have to be removed from the parents' care as a matter of urgency. Now, I mean, in terms of children who lie, I hear that some parents feel that their children lied against them. One thing is, every child has some level of subconscious, some level of information that it might be that you heard them 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and at the point that the child is making the allegations, you're challenging it because you didn't do it at that time. But don't forget that if you did it months ago, it might still be sitting somewhere at the back of the child's mind. Something can trigger a communication through a friend in school. Something might trigger somewhere, and then that will come back to the child's mind. The child will just spill it out in school. And, then the section 47 begins. Then the parent is saying, oh, my child is lying, I've not hit her, not knowing you did it some months or so back. So all of that goes on. We have something we call direct work. Social services are supposed to complete direct work with every child on their books. So say, for example, if there is an allegation against the parent, it has gone through the Section 47 route, there is an investigation going on, or the investigation has gone to the point where there has been an ABE interview. I believe Mr. Samoa explained ABE interview last week. So it has gone through all of that, and the social worker is doing a direct work with that particular child. Now, we have all kinds of strategies that we use to try and gather the truth from the child. If the child is lying, there is 80% chance that we will know that the child is lying. And obviously, we don't speak to just the one child. If one child make an allegation and there are 3 children in the home, we'll speak to all 3 children. It boils down to parents cooperating with us here, because we need to speak to all 3 children separately on their own, away from the family home. It might be in the family home, fair enough, but depending on the circumstances, it is preferable for that to be done outside of the family home, separately, every child as an individual. So we gather all the bits together, and by the time we put all the puzzle together, we would know whether the child was actually telling the truth or lying. It may be that the child might still maintain or be very consistent with lies, and it gets to the point that the child will get finally removed. Obviously, you go to court where the social worker will have to defend their case, and a judge will have to make the final decision. See, we have powers up to a certain extent, but when it gets to the court arena, the powers lies with the judge to make the final decision. The social worker might take it to court for removal, but it's not all of it that the judge will agree with the social worker's report or with the social worker's recommendation. So what parents need to understand is that, we don't just bump in and just take your child away. There is a procedure, and sometimes they might last for.
This question, I know Mr. Martin said it the other time, but maybe the person wasn't there. How can my child be interviewed without my consent in school? I know, but it was answered last week, but I will just leave it as it. Do they have the right to interview my children without my consent?
we need parents' consent to speak to children. That is the procedure. We cannot just go and speak to your child without your consent. Sometimes consent are overridden.
When this one, it says when there is abuse, like a child comes with some form of
that is what I was going to say, that yeah, sometimes consent can be overridden depending on the level of the disclosure. Because sometimes before you arrive at the school or before you get there, we are there already, we are talking to your child, depending on the level or the disclosure the child made. Because sometimes you can't even get hold of parents, but the child needs to be spoken to for a decision to be made, whether the child can go straight home with mom or the child needs to be taken elsewhere. So yes, we under normal circumstances, we have to seek the consent of a parent before the child is being spoken to. But there is also an exception where it can be overridden, depending on, because at the end of the day, what we are trying to achieve is to keep the child protected, safeguarding. If say, for example, the child go and report that a teacher or a neighbor or somebody within the neighborhood has sexually abused them, mom will be grateful for police to get in as quick as possible to sort it out, without their consent. And by the time they get there and they know what is going on, they are happy that we are there to, we are dealing with the issue. But when it's an allegation against them, they don't feel the same. However, it can be overridden if it's necessary for us to do so. Yeah. So
the way you are educating us now makes me understand that taking a child away for some hours or for some days is not really mean you are losing that child forever.
No, it doesn't really mean. And usually it all depends on the disclosure the child has made. That is why we keep going back to the fact that abusing them is not the answer. We Ghana for yen keep your man wo fie, yen try see be keep your man, rather than say the time bia within the slightest say usually
when you are back person ko de ba ya ye die ne ti ase yie no ana ne internet no ya hwe say betimi agina so amana. Eto de bia na side wo ho kora wugina e ma side wo ha ye nua ba no ye nua ba ma Mr. Asamoah ebeba so yes Mr. Samoa ebeba so ntino na makasa me say gas wa omo ye 80 pa ne type PAZITO radio e tie chikutu oye 80 and a tie chintino mensuro ye Madam Angela ekwa ye nua ba so ebeba. Hello. Good evening. This is Mr. Martin Asamoah, Advanced Senior Social Worker. His area is child protection. We have Mr. Kweku Afram, also at the background, who was encouraging. Can you imagine you working and your boss is at the background encouraging you? You flow like anything. That is Mr. Kweku Afram, CEO and chairperson of GASWA. GASWA is Ghana Social Workers Association in the United Kingdom, not in Ghana, they are here. And also Child Protection Conference Chair and Independent Reviewing Officer. His area of practice is in children services and he has been in for 16 years. So that is Mr. Kweku Asamoah. I'm coming to Mr. Kweku Afram. So I'm now coming to Mr. Martin Asamoah, who is an advanced senior social worker, area is child protection. We also have Laura. We have 80 of them backing PAZITO Radio. So we will see more of us. Mr. Martin Asamoah, thank you so much. Last week, it was very powerful. It was helpful. The messages that were coming was so great. That's why you are there, no size. You're really doing a good job. So welcome back to PAZITO Radio. I know you are the background, you were supporting at the background. You do it also. I hand it over to you and we see what we have. The questions that we had was, okay, let me see the first one. Said, allegation that a child made against a mother. I say my child lied against me. And then the other one was, can I have my child back after she's been taken away? So we do two at a time, or what do you think?
Okay, so thank you, my sister. Good evening, dear viewers. So let me first of all answer the first question, if I can. Yeah. So this mom is saying that her child lied against her. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So when an allegation is made or a disclosure is made by a child.
Our sister Angela was really about to leave before the internet, so she's really finished. She's not coming back. We know the time freeze. Her time was, she was just about to summarize it and go. So Mr. Martin is taking over.
Okay, thank you. So if a child makes an allegation against a parent or an adult, or a disclosure is mailed to an adult or a parent, yes. First of all, that child will be spoken to in confidential at age-appropriate level, okay? A social worker.
The term, because a layman will not understand the age-appropriate level. Can you really explain a little bit for us?
Of course. So what I mean is that age-appropriate level, for example, if you're talking to a 7-year-old or 10-year-old, it will be different from the approach that you use will be different from talking to, let's say, a 3-year-old. So if I say age,
the level of the child, okay,
the level of the child. So social workers are trained to communicate with children in a way that that child will understand, will be able to contribute to that conversation. So back to the question, if your child makes an allegation against you as the mother who is saying that the child lied against her, that child will be spoken to in confidential, in private, at age-appropriate level. It's not all allegations or disclosures that proceed to Section 47 inquiries. There will be a number of people that will be spoken to. And also, if the allegation that that child has made in relation to this particular topic, that is physical abuse, there will be police interview. Again, it will be held, or that interview will be handled at age-appropriate level. So if that child is lying, the police officer and the social worker who will interview that child are trained and competent enough to be able to have the cue to know that whether the child is lying or not. However, if the mother who posed this question feel genuinely that that child has lied, what she should do is to contact GASWA in private.
Okay? Let me welcome our dear sister Laura. She's also an experienced senior practitioner in she's a practitioner, social worker. Laura has also worked in the field for 13 good years, and she's part of GASWA. So I know Laura has come on, and welcome our dear sister.
Welcome, Sister Laura. Okay, so what I would advise the mother who posed that question is to contact GASWA and someone, either myself or someone, will be able to speak to her in confidential to get more information. And if there is any support at all that she needs, we will be able to offer that support to her. Can we move on to the next question, which is?
It says, can I ever have my child back? If my child is in social, is in the care of the social or the local authority, can I ever have my child back? Can I ever have the child back? So this means, that is the message, as simple as that, but the way that means the child is already there. Because she said, my child is already with the local authority. Can I ever have my child back?
You can certainly have the child back. However, it will depend on the circumstances of the case. So I will again advise the person who posed this question to contact GASWA. We will need more information. It will depend on which order that child is under.
Free. Etinya afa na bi akwadwin sika wo de beko nya lawyer asem omso mo bua wo de omo ho asi ho ebo afore ti menu a wotie ni enye free we enye fere asem. If it's a Facebook na to de bi edin e wo ho no enye sa nipa no na wo ho etu de wa bebisa na wo te wo na wo bre na de no ewe wa ebe hu last minute na Jones.
Okay, so there's a possibility that if your child is already in the care of children's services or social care, there is still a chance or possibility that the child can be reunited with you. However, it will depend on the circumstances of the case. That's what I'm advising whoever posed that question to contact GASWA, and then more information will be needed before we can offer a meaningful advice. Okay. My dear sister, can we then continue where we ended last week?
Yes.
So we are aiming to finish the child abuse and the section 40.
If I accept I smack my child, what will happen?
Okay. So there is what we call reasonable chastisement. So it will depend on the circumstances of what happened. However, if you have used unreasonable force to physically chastise your child, then the police will make that decision. If it is in the best interest, if it is in the public interest, if there's good grounds, reasonable evidence that the way you have handled that child means the child has suffered or is suffering or is likely to suffer significant harm, that will mean that Section 47 inquiries needs to be initiated. So we will never, no social worker or police or any professional body who work with children will advise or advocate for a parent to use physical chastisement to discipline a child. However, we are all parents. If due to certain circumstances, you may have laid your hand on your child, where you should be open and honest to the police and the social worker during the initial Section 47 inquiries. However, in terms of whether you will be charged or not, that decision will be made by the police, not the social worker. The role of the social worker in that is that the social worker will complete what we call Section 47 inquiries. And then the outcome of the Section 47 inquiries, Children's Act 1989.
So
will
when this
inform.
happens, it's not the social worker's decision, but it's rather the police. But all we know is social workers, social workers, social workers. Police doesn't even come in at all.
No. So the section 47 inquiries is joint police and social care initiate that inquiries. However, when it comes to the criminal charge, when a criminal offense has been committed, it will be the police who will determine whether a child should be preferred against you, the parent, or not. It is not the decision of a social worker to make that decision. The social worker's role is to determine whether that child has suffered or is suffering or is likely to suffer significant harm. When that is determined, then the social worker will then make a decision, the next stage of the investigation. That's when then the social worker will open what we call single assessment under section 17 of the Children's Act again. Can I continue, my sister?
Yes, but I think we'll go step by step to make it more practical. It says, what if the child who is in childcare requests to be sent back home or confesses later that he or she lied? What happens next, please?
Okay, so it is always the children's services or the social workers' preferred options to always to seek for the child to be in the care of his or her parents, if it is safe to do so. So if the child has lied, or if a disclosure has been made that that child or the parent have physically harmed the child, and later on, it turned out that the disclosure was not found to be true, another investigation or assessment can be opened. And if it turns out that it's safe for the child to come home, the child will be reunited with the parent. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So can we then continue with the section 47 inquiries? Okay. So
somebody was saying something and I just want to make fun. You know, when you work with children, the word, we don't use kid and we don't say child. It's child because you do phonics and you need to let the child hear the L sound. So it will come child. So that is why you hear our brother say child. That is the way I say it, because it has to come out with the L sound, because the child is sounding the che. So it's che, ild. It has to come. Thank you.
Okay. So after the investigation has been completed, the social worker will then make a decision. And then let me quickly or briefly chip this one in here.
Okay.
During the course of the investigation, the social worker will contact a number of agencies, that is school. So the school, the teacher, there is a safeguarding officer in every school in England. Yeah. There is a designated safeguarding lead or safeguarding officer, one of the teachers who has been trained to identify or spot when a child is suffering significant harm, or if that child has safeguarding concerns, okay? Yeah. So that person, the social worker will speak to that person at the school, and then depending on the age of the child also. For example, if the child is under the age of 4, there will be a health visitor involvement. So the social worker will contact the health visitor to get information about the health needs of that child. The GP, that is the doctor, the family doctor of that child, the social worker will contact the doctor as well to get the health records of the child. And then, if the child is at the age of from 5 to 16, they will have what we call school nurse. So the school nurse will also contribute towards the investigation. If the child is at the nursery, not school going age, the social worker will contact the nursery. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is, in the course of the Section 47 inquiries, the social worker will seek, and it's a statutory requirement for the social worker to contact all agencies, including statutory and voluntary agencies that have any involvement with the child. Okay. So after all the information has been gathered, the social worker will then write everything up, analyze it, and then make sense of it all. And then from there, the social worker will then determine, go look at the police information, and then determine or decide whether that child is safe in that household. That is what we call in social work terms, whether the child is suffering, likely to suffer significant harm. Then, what next? If the child is at that time deemed to be suffering significant harm, the next stage of social care involvement is what we called initiating of initial child protection conference. But before I go there, what can also happen in the course of the investigation is that it may be, this is very important to one of the questions, it may be after all this, after the police interview, after the social worker has spoken to the number of agencies and professionals, it will turn out that the allegation has been unsubstantiated, although consideration will be given into supporting that family, because maybe the child may be seeking attention. That's why he or she may have made that allegation. So in the course of the investigation, the social worker may unpick other concerns within the family. And then what will happen is, if the allegation is substantiated and the child is deemed to be suffering significant harm, the initial child protection conference will be initiated. There is another option. If the social worker determines that there is no need to proceed to child protection conference, there may be some support that is needed to be provided to the family to stabilize the situation. Maybe it may be a parent or couple who are suffering or struggling to cope with the behavior of their children. So the social worker may put services in. Okay, so it's not every allegation that comes to children's services that lead to the children being taken into care. Let me make this very clear. Not every allegation or disclosure that lead to a child being taken into care. However, if the social worker's assessment determines that the child is suffering or likely to suffer significant harm, that means that child needs to be safeguarded. And in the course of that assessment or the child protection conference, what will happen is all the professionals who contributed to the Section 47 inquiries will gather with you, the parents. So there is a meeting that will be held. Then the parent will be invited to attend that meeting. That is where Mr. Kwaku Afram's duty comes in. So there is a body called Independent Reviewing Officers. Okay, so they work with the local authority, but they are separate from the children's services or social care. So the social worker who represent the children's services will present the findings of the Section 47 inquiries with a document called single assessment to present to the IRO or independent reviewing officer together with all the professionals, then to discuss, share, and then whether come up with a solution, whether that child needs protection, and if that child needs protection, under what category. So the child may be put on what we call child protection plan. In all these stages, the child may be living with you. However, if the level of abuse is so significant that that child will not be safe to return to your care, the child will then, the local authority will determine whether that child should be protected or live separate from you, the parents. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So
what you're trying to say is the child, they'll make a decision whether the child stays with me or not at that very point.
No. By the time we go to the initial child protection,
independent revealing, Mr. Kwekwa and their officers have done their job. Do they make that decision?
So the decision has already been made whether the child should remain in the care of the parents or not before the child protection conference. So some of the viewers in the UK, if you have a child who is subject to child protection plan or child in need plan, so there is a category of need. When that child is subject to child protection plan, that means that is the higher category of our involvement. However, the child may still be living in your care, or the child will be removed, has already been removed. Most of the times, if the child has been removed, it will be either under ICO, interim care order, or Section 20. If at the child protection conference, it determines that that family needs support, however, there's no reason for the child to be on child protection plan, there is another category, what we call child in need plan. That child in need plan is low level support where maybe a social worker or a family support worker may come to the house to support you, to address the concerns. For example, if your child, you are struggling to manage a child's challenging behavior, a family support worker may be able to support you how to manage that child's behavior. So the purpose of that is for the family support worker or the social worker to give you, the parents, the skills, the tools, and the strategies to manage that child's behavior or whatever situation that you find yourself in. It may be, maybe you are going through some financial difficulties. It may be housing. It may be any other issues within the household. So once we are able to identify what the concerns are, then we will support you, okay? However,
let me just go and sell, please, a little bit before we come back.
Okay.
Greater Manchester NHS 70 and Windrush 70 will be holding a free health walk and festival at Alexandra Park, Manchester on Saturday, the 23rd of June, 12 till 5 p.m. CARN, the Caribbean and African Health Network, are working in partnership with sponsors and supporters to produce an exciting family-friendly celebration of the contribution migration has made to the NHS. Join us and enjoy an array of cultural entertainment, Music, dancers, drummers, choirs and cultural workshops, stalls including health checks and historical footage of the Windrush and the NHS. To register, to take part and for further information visit www.cahn.org.uk or visit Eventbrite.
Okay, as you've heard, if you want to support PAZITO Radio in any way, it's welcome. We do so many programs. We do health programs, we do education program, we do marital programs, and this is one of the programs we're doing. In any way you want to support PAZITO Radio, you are welcome to support us. Thank you, Mr. Asamoah.
Thank you. So, the purpose of the whole thing is to protect and safeguard the child from harm. And the social worker or social care will try to do what we call preventive approach, preventive intervention. And that's what we are even doing now. So, as I kept repeating last week, if you are struggling to manage a child's challenging behavior, there are a number of professionals, or there are a number of options available to you. You can seek for help, but using physical chastisement to discipline your child is not one of them. Most of the times, our people, because back home in Africa, we feel that...
Asamoah, let me just step in here. All that we're doing, we are not saying go and hit your child, smack and come for help. No. If you have already engaged yourself in that situation, they are not saying go and do it and then when you come, they will support you. No, that is not the reason why they are here. They are here to educate us to avoid it. That is the whole matter. For you and I to avoid using this hand, because that is the easiest way, that is the common thing, we will not stretch forth, is with us. So we find out having it and smacking left and right. But they are educating us that there's so many ways of chastising a child. Thank you, Mr. Asamoah.
Okay, thank you, my sister. So, back to what I was saying. If you're struggling to manage your child's challenging behavior, or if you feel that the child's behavior is becoming challenging for you at home, using physical chastisement is not an option. Please, it's not an option. And once you get caught up in that social care involvement, it's very, very unpleasant experience. It's very unpleasant experience. So if you're struggling, please try and seek for help. Speak to Gaswa, speak to the teacher. I know some of our teachers, they can help you. However, if you get yourself, maybe accidentally, you happen to hit your child, and unfortunately, the social worker or the police come in. First of all, initially, cooperate with the investigation. Do not lie during that investigation because it will go against you. And also, what we sometimes find is our people think that they will, because back home in our community, we respect our elders, our pastors, community leaders so much that when something happens, when there's a case, we use what we call local dispute resolution approach. Maybe you can approach your pastor to plead on your behalf. That cannot work here. The pastor cannot intervene for you. The leader of the community cannot intervene for you. So what we're trying to say is, yes, we are trying to support our people here, but when you are involved in social care in whatever means, we can support you, but we cannot intervene. in the due process. Let me make that clear. There has been a number of situations where during the course of our intervention or investigation, you will see authority, community leaders coming in to plead on behalf of the people. It will not work here. It doesn't work here. The law must take its due course. Here we follow due process of the law. That is different from the way we work and we act back home in Ghana. So first of all, you need to avoid physically chastising your child. If I can put it in our local language. Okay, so what we are trying to say is oh, Masiaka Brofunu BM. Let me tell you,
all but this time it's been English. So it's the same words or the same thing he's saying. He's going to divert it and speak our local dialects. Please.
Okay, thank you. So, sir, Ufu say, Oba, ewo fi na or how again, na say, ni behavior no, to me. Emfa wonsa ana emfa baabi enkoka akoda no because ode wonsa bo akora no wo krom ha wo na okosko obeden obekọ akoka okanso a school bia krom ha no ye wo safeguarding officer e wo school bia mu enti straight away akora no koka asem ni kire teacher ni na teacher ni so be free social services abamu anti social services for ne akura ne be den ebe kasa na say omu say
mabaya de antiano ma obi nyi ya no ensi bone yesre ye kan say ubaya de antiano na mo ye pese ye kire say ye se wo ko roman fo kuro mu a de omo ye ne na wo ye enti enye aba no kuto ne ekwan ye fa so tia akola eno na gas wo fo pese omo tete ye wo mu no. If you say, who can say that in Frigana? Kai who's Frigana? Never one hour to show Ghana. It's Ghana. Yama penny grown to be major. When you had the one sat, now what was idea about what you want to say? Who better be a wakalana waha? And crack our woman, who need be a colana nibi. A summer banner, there was a colana, your banner, and your banner. You never about to ask some patch.
Okay, thank you, my sister. So, if I can switch back to the English, is that okay?
Exactly the ones I'm going to do.
Okay. Make a okay. So,
Sonia, if we are on, we've really had a lot of English, so we're going to this time around the same thing he's been saying in English. We really want to go deep down in our dialect so that we'll get it more, please.
Okay, thank you. So the purpose of this is emfa wonsa nka akoda no se anya aba anase ode wonsa bebu akoda nko na obetimi aden atete akoda no. There are so many ways of disciplining a child without using physical violence. There are a number of research. Abrafuna yanhwehwemu bebre kire say akoda ni parents expose no to frightening chaotic situation mono akoda no onyina one obetimi anya mental health issues okwa school he or she will be behind academically, socially, in her peers. What you say? Enti akoda ho mama papa kakrabe wa faba na wonsa na obono no akoda ni brain no sa akoda ni nyandru 16 and 18 years ni brain no enyan develop enwie enti akoda ho ubema ni edi hu sro ebenyini no akoda ni onyina ada say obenya some form of mental health. Say when we talk about mental health anya say obi a wate sabi entuma wabodam kwana yeden your friend mental health. There are different levels of mental health. And you don't necessarily have to use physical chastisement to discipline a child, because the effect, the consequences of doing that to that child, the harm is lasting. So I keep repeating this. There are different ways of bringing up that child whom you think you are suffering to manage that behavior, rather than using physical chastisement. And if you're suffering, or if you are struggling in managing that child behavior, speak out. GASWA can step in to help you. School can help you. We have family support workers in every school. Some schools, they call them pastoral lead. Some schools, they call them SENCO. So all these people are there. They are trained, competent to support you. Don't be afraid that when you speak out, your child is going to be removed from you. No. In terms of social workers' involvement with families, it's only tiny percentage who end up being removed from their parents' care. Social workers are fantastic. I love my job. Oh my God, I love my job. Supporting the family is a key. It's key. Supporting the family, keeping the children in their parents' care is what we do. Unfortunately, there's this misperception that social workers' role is just baby grabbers, removing the children. That is not the case. It's all myth. If you're struggling in managing your child's behavior, speak out. Speak out. Don't use physical chastisement. I've had a number of conversations within our community in recent times about this topic. Let me come into some practical terms here. Listen. Some parents, especially some fathers from African background, they will not accept, they challenge the system here that, kromhadia yasaya yasi yambua kura, entina nkura na say no. That is not true. Ghana nkura ya buye, but yasay mebuana.
Bebre esa de akoya ba faso atete na odi nyame nsu besere no waboa wo no eno na tie esa na de no etie.
Exactly. That frightening situation that our parents put us through, we cannot use the same level or the same type of parenting here. It's different. And I will never advocate a parent smacking a child or using any form of physical chastisement in disciplining a child. That is not an option. Okay. Once you get yourself, okay, let's go back to the section 47. Okay. So in terms of our involvement, when the child is subject to the child in need or child protection plan, say akudano social worker na aya assessment na wie no na say okase akudano fie na otimu no or sofa and I say or your risk for say parents no omo be say den abu no biema na say akudano dey also onya no onya ye be man aye other child protection plan and I say child in need plan. Child protection plan no, and they say Akrano is likely to suffer significant harm. And social services and the local authority no, I will say omoya den omo support no omo safeguard Akrano. And then you the parents no, you'll be invited to the conference I earlier mentioned. And there will be a number of actions that needs to be done. Ebi abeka kire say every samre wukono papa no ana ma me na wode won sa bo wo ba no emfa won sa anye den embo no biem say or say akra no or yes stubborn. This is what you need to do. So every time working days bia no social worker no be den obeba fie ho abehwe say akra na den or you safe and also onye safe.
Oh, Timothy, yes, say na. Yes, I want me call to this extent.
Of course, we do. So, as I said earlier, it's just a myth or misconception that people think social workers' role is to remove children from their parents. Social worker, they help a lot. They do incredible job within the family. Okay, so when the child is subject to the child protection plan, every 10 working days, a social worker, a minimum of every 10 working days, the social worker, this is a statutory requirement. Every 10 working days, the social worker is supposed to go to the family house to see that child. So when that child, when the social worker comes to the house, please, parents, allow that child to, my friend is saying, I'm struggling with the tree. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Someone is struggling with the tree.
That is my old schoolmate back in Ghana, St. James, old boy. Okay. Thank you. So when the social worker comes to the house, sometimes what we find is we have what we call disguise compliant. The parents sometimes will say to the children, hey, don't speak to the social worker. Otherwise, if you speak to the social worker, you'll be taken away from to care. Please, that is dangerous. That's very damaging. When the social worker find out that you are also coercing or teaching the child not to speak to the social worker, that is what we call emotional abuse. You are abusing the child, this time not physical, but emotionally, you are abusing the child. So allow the social worker to spend time with the child. Sometimes when the social worker comes to the house, you want to speak to the child alone.
And I don't think it's comfortable that you live in your own home and then you see social worker coming up, down, and talking to your children. I don't think it's a pleasant thing, even to start of it, even getting close to that kind of situation.
That's true. So to avoid all this, the best way is to avoid getting social care involvement in your life. My sister say, ya say, uti wu fie na social worker beba wopunum every 10 working days, or sometimes more than that.
Just I can't imagine it. And you know, Bible say na corona ya bemuno. One will say your mentality be say, and a gun and titi, and one we are sensitive, and a bruna ya bruya. Yankasa Mr. a boy, and raw bone. At the corona was it is a bruna canwa of a sign. Tian Fakwan Froso, Cromwell, walk around Mr. Samoa, equipment nature and where she. Deny the child with certain things, and the Quran come on Kurate, Saudi Bible, and no phone Kitawom. Or Kita iPad. Some marketing kitten now to Gia, a chance of our.
Okay. So, as I said earlier on, there are different strategies that can be used in managing that child behavior. But physical chastisement, unfortunately, is not among them. Okay. Avoid using physical chastisement. Bring up your child in a loving, nurturing, and home environment. You will not need that physical chastisement. The way we were brought up back home in Africa is different here. The laws in this country protect, safeguard children. If you feel you are struggling, seek help. Don't use physical chastisement to discipline your child. What makes the whole thing even worse is if you use your hand and the child is injured, when there is when the abuse results in injury, that is criminal offense. That's why I explained earlier on. That will means the police will open a separate investigation alongside the social workers investigation, which is the section 47. So the social workers investigation is to try to identify whether that child is suffering significant harm or likely to suffer significant harm. Then the social worker will complete, the police will also complete their own investigation. That child will be subject to what we called ABE, Achieving Best Interview, Best Evidence Interview. There will be a video recorded interview that the child will speak to the police through video recording. Okay, it's very, very unpleasant situation. And that will, when that evidence is gathered, that will be another criminal offense. And social workers don't play any part in that. Our role is to make sure that child is safe. So if your child is suffering, as I keep repeating, seek help. Don't use physical chastisement.
Somebody's asking that if if they take a child away from you and the child is on that, it's child protection. I don't know how your role is, but child protection. And then they take the child.
My sister, can you repeat? My sister, can you repeat? Somebody interrupted me. Somebody tried to call me.
Okay, it says, if the child is being taken away, finally, so the child, we said, assuming that the child has been taken away and the woman has been accused that she has done something to the child, so they've taken the child, and the person is like a nurse, can the person still work whilst the child has been taken away and she has been charged?
That is even extremely serious. So, if you work, if you are in this country and you work with the class of people who are considered to be vulnerable people, so children, for example, if you're a nurse, social worker, a teacher, a doctor, so basically, if you work with,
if you work in a school as a cleaner.
As a cleaner, so if you have contact, if your work involve having contact with a child, and you are accused of any safeguarding concerns or child abuse, so alongside the police investigation, social care investigation, which is section 47 inquiries, there will be another investigation in relation to your professional conduct. We call it LADO. I am not the competent person to go into details in that aspect, but you will be asked to stop work immediately.
ASAP.
ASAP. Yes, whilst the LADO investigation is ongoing. So it's very serious. If you work with children, you're a nurse, a social worker, a teacher, or even a cleaner, dinner lady at school, and you are involved in any safeguarding procedure, you'll be asked to stop work straight away. And you also have duty to even report yourself to your employers. So I think this is very relevant. Let me reverse to the tree because it's very, very important.
Sorry.
Even say we cleaner cry school ana wadwuma we ye ne eye enkwada ho adwuma whether we a cleaner or a dinner lady, you don't necessarily have to be a social worker or a nurse or a teacher. If any allegation is made against you regarding child abuse, the first thing that you need to do is to report yourself to your employer, to your manager. Yes. Because an investigation called LADO needs to be open to investigate you. And to say, you can go back to work. But if you are found culpable of the offense, that will be end. You can never work with children again. And to cleaners, we have to be very careful. The reason why some of us are devoting ourselves in pursuing this program is some of these things. We have had cases. We're not going to break any confidentiality over here. But Sister Agnes, you are aware because of your own profession, okay? We've had cases where our people, they've made themselves vulnerable to some of these situations. Imagine traveling all the way from Ghana to come and make better life here. And because of some incident like you're beating your child and you've been subject to child protection procedure or LADO, and you can never work in certain jobs. The types of job that you can do here will be extremely limited. That's why we want to educate our people that if you're suffering, if you have issue with your child upbringing, please don't use physical chastisement. Okay. Is there any other question, Sister Angela?
Let's try to protect ourselves. It's happening. The children are going into social care. They are going. And as the day the CEO of Gaswa spoke, he said, the children, when they get there, it's not easy to bring them back. Yes, sir, if someone will show them, to know on Jeja Makalano won't Kakrebi ne show say a show said the Tinkola, the Akanisika wope, into a show bano, but process at the Opebia. It was some maybe. Na beye ya send no mienu ye betu kwan afri chiri na ya ba na fe u ba wa hwere no na se be hu ba kwa na otimi pagya wani enhwe u ba no wasai emfa so ben enu ti na gaswa ne PAZITO radio ya bomu a ye di sa dwuma efie de bia to de wo ho any question you want, any question, and those who have also text where anyone name. Because some people text, and you know, and Messenger, some people are there on Facebook, it's not their real name. So you know. But this is your own private for confidentiality. Please, from whatever situation you find yourself, it's better now than it's too late. So please let us help ourselves to avoid this.
Yes, we don't want our people to go into care.
No.
I repeat, we don't want our people to go into care. Okay, already we know as ethnic minorities in this country, we suffer a lot of discrimination. Okay, I have to be very sensitive here. So let's keep our children to ourselves. Okay, let's not expose our children to the care system. It's damaging. It's damaging. Children going into care, their outcomes are always not very positive. And as a social worker, we know there's a number of research, evidence prove that children taken into care, their outcomes are not always very positive. That's why we're saying that let's keep our children in our care. Yes. Yeah. Let's try hard to keep our children in our care.
Mr. Martin Asamoah, our social worker. Na nyoye pass and kola menyane mahe and kola was advanced senior social worker in area no child protection and na nyodi kan so abo buy madam Angela Apia ono so outreach lead of Gaswa. Our senior practitioner, social worker, and kola any kudam for na adwuma e social service. So yes, adwuma nate. Then you have Laura so by also experienced social worker, or a senior practitioner or social service. So why adwuma no so 13 years. And now kekrakano and so kete penny pan what time chikutu baby ko biara. A friend of Mr. Kwekua from he is the CEO and chairperson of Gaswa. Also Child Protection Conference Chair and Independent Reviewing Officer. He has worked in children's services for 16 years. So, and GASWA is Ghana Social Workers Association in the Midlands. It's just, I think they just came into existence 4 months ago. They are now 80 in number. If you're a social worker and you don't belong to any of this, join GASWA. And you know that you have sisters and brothers there doing this great job. We thank Mr. Asamoah. So he's going to round everything up next week. So from this time, every Friday we have social services on. So any question you have, as I said, don't die in silence. Onia adia pia chichere wona wontimi udia taxi ufra na wo taxi a ubenya sa emwaye ne nyina entwa me enje wo bayentia. Nobody is above the law in this country. Enye Ghana na ade sika akoto emra entunya to mra ne mu a se na be ya wo be free no ebe yente.
Okay, before I wrap everything up, I've got my friend Nicola Ochrebuatin Kujo. Can you please elaborate what you mean by physical chastisement? Kujo, what I mean is that physical chastisement, any form of using any physical way of disciplining a child. So it could be using your hand, smacking, hitting, kicking. That is what we call any form of physical handling of a child. So this is not a dictionary description, but in practical terms, okay?
Yeah, so hitting, kicking, patting, it's a lot. Even locking somebody in the house, there's so much. I think next time we will go into deep to know which type or what we meant by that. Because if our brother asks about physical chastisement, I think we will go into deep and for you to know what do's and don'ts. Anything you use in your hand to do, using your feet, your body, even spatting. Oh.
Okay. Okay, so let me then wrap up then. So for last week and today, we have spoken about physical abuse. Yeah. I hope it has been meaningful.
Oh, it has.
So after today, I think my sister Agnes will repeat the GASWA numbers. If you have any issue or if you have any question,
if Madam Rama can give us the numbers, please. I think next week I'll write it on this book before. If our dear sister Angela can give us the number, that would be, I think she's on. If she can give us the numbers, or the boss himself, Mr. Kweku Afra, if he's around and he can, if he's still on and he can give us the numbers, that would be great.
If you have any issue or any question from what we've discussed so far from last week, please contact PAZITO Radio or contact GASWA and somebody will be able to contact you and discuss everything with you in confidential. From next week, we will move on to another form of abuse. We have different forms of abuse. We have neglect, emotional abuse, physical abuse. So from next week, depending on what our boss will decide, Mr. Afram, and the outreach team will decide, we may decide to talk about another form of abuse, either neglect or emotional abuse. I hope this has been meaningful.
Yes.
And people will continue. Oh, the number, Mr. Kwaku Afram, thank you very much. So the numbers are...
given us the number. Thank you so much, Mr. Afram has given us the number. So we have the number there.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you everyone for listening, spending for your time. I hope the discussion has been meaningful, impactful. As I said, next week we will talk about another form of abuse. So in the course of the week, PAZITO Radio will give more information about the topic that will be discussed from next week onwards. Thank you everyone for watching. Bye-bye.
There's a thumb up there, everybody. This is something you get it only on PAZITO Radio. We do it all. We thank on behalf of we thank all the crew of Gaswa for your good work. And this is what we are embarking on. Gaswa, and in conjunction with PAZITO Radio, we're doing this job together. The main reason is we want you to keep your children. They are our future leaders. They are our future leaders. We can't just let them go just like that. So, and then at the end, if they take your child, you, the mother, it leads into mental issue, depression. So you see, it's not just, it doesn't end there, and we don't want you to go there. Thank you so much, Mr. Martin Asamoah, our dear sister, Madam Angela, and Laura. God bless you all, and the boss himself, Mr. Kwaku Afram, the CEO of Gaswa, who is a senior practitioner. We thank you so much all. We thank you, and then we thank you too. Nicholas said this is good. Ekuya has given a thumb up as well. So we thank you all for being there. We need your feedback as well. We need your feedback. So give us feedback. Yes, we are doing a pie. We food your pie. We appear what you pay. Na who say ye juma. God bless you all for being here and spread the news. What I want you to do is bless somebody. Somebody is doing this secreting in the house, but you sending this, and the person listening to this is educating the person. So, whoa, is that what I can end up my life or my child's life? And they will stop it, and that's a blessing. Bye bye. And this is PAZITO Radio. Bye-bye for now.
www.pazitoradio.co.uk. PAZITO Radio. We keep you alive.
My last announcement.
Nature 70 and Windrush 70 will be holding a free health walk and festival at Alexander Park, Manchester on Saturday, the 23rd of June, 5 p.m. Khan, the Caribbean and African Health Network, are working in partnership with sponsors and supporters to produce an exciting family-friendly celebration of the contribution migration has made to the NHS. Join us and enjoy an array of cultural entertainment, music, dancers, drummers, choirs and cultural workshops, stalls including health checks and historical footage of the Windrush and the NHS. To register, to take part and for further information, visit www.cahn.org.uk or visit Eventbrite.
Okay, the Windrush is the ship that brought the Caribbeans into United Kingdom. The day has finally come. For tomorrow in Manchester, the police and the NHS is celebrating migrants for our hard work towards the NHS. So tomorrow at Alexander Park, which is part of Manchester, a big park, that is where this program is being held, we will be there as well. So they are celebrating. So if it's a church, it's a group of people, you can mount your stage there and they are celebrating. It's a healthy walk. You walk as a marathon. They do marathon, but this is a health walk. And then also they're going to do a free check. If you are diabetic, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, all those things will be checked there. You meet the police services there. If you want to be a police officer, there will be also a stand there for people to recruit as well. So it's a big event, and if you live around Manchester and its surrounding area, do not stay at home. Come and let's celebrate together. They are celebrating. What an honor. They are honoring, I would say the blacks, because that's what they're doing. They are celebrating. So let us celebrate our own for our part. Finally, at 10 o'clock, it will be Prophet Richard Akayamba between 10 and 11 today. It will be because it's a revival. He's been doing it on Facebook. So today is between 10 and 11, an hour prayer and the word of God. God bless you all until we meet. God bless you. Stay blessed. Have a blessed weekend. And anyone who is celebrating his or her birthday, God bless you. My dearest old-time friend, Mabel Sampson, God bless you. Today is your birthday. And anyone who is celebrating his or her birthday, our sister Dora Kusi, God bless you. Happy birthday to you all who is celebrating the month of June. God bless you. Bye-bye for now.